What is going on, IVE Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about why it has become increasingly more and more important to know when you start to break your fast. Data is pushing hard on this information and consistently year over year, and we have to talk about it because it's really important. And if you're having issues with intermittent fasting or you don't feel that you're doing it as optimally as possible, this video is essentially for you. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, guys, quickly before we start, I do want to mention Lumen, one of my favorite and proud sponsors, giving you essentially an RER tool that you can use in the palm of your hands. The only device of its kind, built and created by scientific researchers to tell you if you're burning predominantly body fat or if you're burning predominantly carbs. Now, why it makes so much sense for the intermittent fasting community to jump on this as quickly as possible is because if you wake up in the morning after a fast and you're burning predominantly carbohydrates, there can be an issue. You could be actually over fasting for your specific biology. So it's important to be able to have a hands-on device that lets you know if this is happening. The offer to be able to get this device with $40 off is still available if you click the link down in the description box below. I'm telling you, hands down, in terms of devices, this is the best device that has ever been created for intermittent fasting, because something that would normally take you sometimes even years to figure out, to calibrate how you're burning, because that process is so slow, you now find out in seconds. Click the link down below, get yourself a Lumen device. You will not regret it. All right, guys, so in 2017, the Nobel Prize was awarded to three gentlemen: Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young. And they were able to elucidate or clearly explain something that was not clear or grasped by the scientific community. They were finally able to explain their circadian rhythm, the circadian clock, and how daylight and nighttime affects our biological clock. And this was done with fruit flies, but this was able to allow us to discern how that affects all of biology. So looking at their research and their body of work, they were awarded the Nobel Prize in 2017 for their magnificent findings. Now, ever since this happened, there has been a massive apex interjection into the intermittent fasting community. And the reason that there's been a massive impact in this is because the when do you break your fast is super important. And if there's an optimal time for that to happen, then you want to know that. And that's where the circadian rhythm and the circadian clock comes into play. The thing with the circadian rhythm is that we understand when melatonin secretion happens, which is the sleep hormone that helps you sleep, that kind of brings you down, brings your body down more. And that's going into midnight. And then when that stops around 6 o'clock in the morning, we know that cycle. And we know when the body is most alert, most revved up, which means your metabolism is most powerful during that small time frame. And because it's powerful during that small time frame, it's pretty optimal to try to go ahead and eat during that time frame. That's where we got time restricted feeding from, or early time restricted feeding. It all flows with the circadian rhythm. But here's the thing: since that 2017 study and all the different intermittent fasting, early time restricted feeding studies that have come out, the studies have shown consistency in the benefits of eating earlier rather than eating later. We know when our body is the most alert, and it's looking like breakfast may be pretty important with the circadian clock, but fasting can also assist with you being optimal in eating during that time frame. Now, there are things like the circadian rhythm diet or the circadian diet, where it's basically eating everything in reverse. This is how powerful your body is during the alert time versus the time when your body is starting to wind down with the day-night cycle, right? They want you to eat your biggest meal. Like if it's gonna be all the heavy stuff, the meats, the steaks and all of that, early first. then a smaller meal. So essentially a lunch-ish meal second, and then a breakfast type meal, like a very light meal, last. So essentially reversing how you eat now. If you eat the standard American diet of 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So they want you to flip it and do dinner, lunch, breakfast. That's the flip that they want you to do to be effective at this. And the only reason they're doing that is because they want to have you eat the least amount of food during the times when you are in the wind down. Your body is winding down and getting ready to get into that sleep cycle. You're no longer at the highest alert period. But the best thing to do is to not eat at all during that time. Just completely eliminate eating during that time, essentially doing early time restricted feeding so that you could be as optimal as possible. You're never eating when your body is not at its highest peak. You're just simply not eating. Now, when is that specific time seen on your circadian clock? Well, it starts going in to about 12 afternoon and it ends closing in on 6 o'clock. So anywhere from around 4 o'clock, you start to move over into that winding down period. So you want to eat really anywhere between 12 to 4 to be as optimal as possible, but you could eat at 9, starting at 9, starting at 10, starting even at 8 o'clock. You want to eat during that time frame because that's simply when you're at your highest peak, when you're at your most alert. And keep in mind, one of the things that happen with weight loss, no matter what, no matter if you're doing calorie restriction only or if you're doing intermittent fasting where you apply calorie restriction, you will go through what is called adaptive thermogenesis, where your body and your metabolism simply slows down to keep you from losing more weight. It's a protective mechanism. Also, just logistically speaking and biologically speaking, if you weigh less, there's less energy that needs to be used, but your body also becomes efficient in how it uses its energy to try to hold on to as much calories as possible. You have to counteract that as much as you can, ensuring that you're maintaining muscle or even building muscle, which can happen if you're new to building muscle or if you've been detrained for a long time. That's called body recomposition. You can actually build muscle and lose weight at the same time, depending on certain factors with protein intake and resistance training, but also doubling down on making sure that when your body is most potent, most metabolically active, you are also eating during that time. That's also a way to try to thwart it as much as you can. Ensuring that you are keeping or building lean muscle because that is the primary driver for your metabolic rate, and also eating during that time frame, during that heightened time frame, to double down on thwarting or flanking your metabolic adaptation that is inevitable when you are reducing weight. And I keep seeing these studies come up and I keep reading these studies and their control designs and all these different ways of doing early time restricted feeding. And it keeps on reinforcing that it is looking like eating in the morning, eating earlier is the way to go. Back in 2016, back in 2017, before the study started moving into early time restricted feeding, even early 2018 and late 2000, even early mid 2018, it looked like you could eat whenever you want. But now that has changed. I implore you guys to try to test out if eating earlier it will help you, even just with your hunger and things of that nature, because your body is designed to move in that flow. Remember though, if it works for you and it's better for you to eat at night, then go ahead and eat later in the day. That's still the best way to go if it's the best thing for you, if it works for your schedule and you can stick to it for the long term, because that's the most important thing. But if you want to be as optimal as possible, you want to try something different, if you want to nudge this in the right direction, it's just not working for you right now, then I would ask that you try to see if early time restricted feeding can work for you as well. Hopefully this video has helped you guys. And of course, as always, Patreons will be pinned down in the comment section below. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.